The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the Whitmore mansion, sending crystal fragments across Victoria's perfect wedding shoes. Daniel Cross stood frozen in the doorway, his tuxedo still carrying the scent of another woman's. "Perfume! Where were you?" Victoria's voice cut through the silence like broken glass. Her wedding dress hung behind her, pristine white silk that would never touch her skin. Marcus told me everything. Daniel's throat felt raw. The taste of Luna's goodbye kiss still lingered on his lips. Sweet and desperate and wrong in every way that mattered to everyone except him. "I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you abandoned our rehearsal dinner to watch some nobody dance?" Victoria's perfectly applied makeup began to streak. "That you chose her over everything we've built together?" The truth sat heavy in Daniel's chest. He had chosen Luna. In that dark theater, watching her move like liquid fire across the stage, he had finally understood what it meant to feel alive. But standing here now, surrounded by wedding gifts and family portraits and the weight of expectations, that choice felt like madness. "Victoria, I'm sorry. I made a mistake." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "A mistake." "Daniel, the wedding is tomorrow. Our families are here. The flowers are arranged. The cake is ready." Her voice cracked. "I've spent 3 years of my life planning this day." Marcus appeared in the doorway behind Daniel, his presence like a cold shadow. "Leave us alone, Victoria, Daniel, and I need to talk." Victoria looked between them, something dangerous flickering in her eyes. "Oh, whatever you have to say to him, you can say in front of me. I'm going to be his wife in 12 hours. Smiled, but it never reached his eyes. "Are you, though?" Because from where I'm standing, Daniel seems to have developed quite an attachment to that dancer. What was her name? Luna Martinez. The way Marcus said Luna's name made Daniel's skin crawl. There was poison in it, threat wrapped in silk. "She's nobody," Daniel said quickly. "It was just cold feet, pre-wedding nerves." "I'm sure it was." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through something with deliberate slowness. "Although I have to say, she's quite talented. Beautiful, too. It would be such a shame if anything happened to her." The room went deadly quiet. Victoria's tears stopped. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. "What are you saying, Marcus?" Victoria whispered. "I'm saying that people who threaten our family's interests sometimes find themselves in unfortunate situations. Immigration troubles, tax problems, anonymous tips about drug use in the arts community." Marcus tucked his phone away. "Seattle can be such a dangerous city for young women, especially ones without powerful connections." Daniel stepped forward, his hands clenching into fists. "You wouldn't try me." Marcus's voice was glacier cold. "The Martinez woman has a younger brother, doesn't she? Miguel, 16 years old, scholarship student at Roosevelt High. Bright kid. It would be terrible if he lost that scholarship over some fabricated academic dishonesty charge." Daniel's world tilted. Luna had mentioned Miguel during their brief, stolen conversation at the theater. Her pride in her brother's achievements had lit up her face. The boy was her everything. Victoria stared at her brother with something like horror. "Marcus, what are you doing? Protecting our family. Protecting what we've worked for." Marcus straightened his tie. "Daniel, you have a choice. You can marry my sister tomorrow and forget this dancer ever existed. Or you can watch her world burn down around her while you live with the knowledge that your selfishness destroyed an innocent family." The weight of the ultimatum settled over Daniel like a burial shroud. In the theater, watching Luna dance, he had felt free for the first time in years. Now that freedom was revealed as an illusion, a luxury he couldn't afford. "I need time to think." "You have until morning," Marcus said. "The ceremony starts at 2. Be there, Daniel. For everyone's sake." As Marcus left, Victoria sank into a chair, her face pale and drawn. "Is this what our marriage is going to be? Threats and manipulation?" Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and saw his own trapped reflection staring back. "I don't know. I love you," she whispered. "I know you don't believe that anymore, but I do. I've loved you since college. Before the money. Before my family got involved. Before everything became so complicated." The confession hit him like a physical blow. In all their years together, Victoria had never spoken about love. Their relationship had been built on compatibility, on shared goals and social standing. Love had been an assumption, never a declaration. Victoria, don't say anything. Just tell me this. If my brother wasn't threatening her, if there were no consequences, would you still choose me? Daniel opened his mouth to lie, to give her the answer she needed to hear. But looking into her eyes, seeing the raw vulnerability there, he found he couldn't. His silence was answer enough. Victoria nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. Then we're both trapped, aren't we? Outside, rain began to fall against the windows of the Whitmore mansion, each drop like a countdown to a decision that would destroy someone Daniel cared about, no matter what he chose. Luna's apartment building stood like a fortress of crumbling brick against the Seattle dawn. Daniel sat in his car across the street, his wedding suit hanging in the back seat like a ghost of the future. He had 3 hours before the ceremony. 3 hours to find a way to save her without destroying himself. The building's security door was propped open with a paint can. Daniel climbed the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor, his heart hammering against his ribs. Luna's door was painted deep blue with a small brass nameplate that read Martinez in elegant script. He knocked softly. Footsteps approached, and the door opened to reveal Luna in an oversized sweater and paint-stained jeans. Her dark hair falling in waves around her shoulders. Her face went through a series of emotions when she saw him: surprise, confusion, and something that might have been hope. "Daniel, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you. It's important." She stepped aside to let him in. The apartment was small, but filled with life. Canvases leaned against every wall, some finished, others half-complete explosions of color and movement. Dance shoes hung from hooks by the window. Books in Spanish and English covered every surface. Coffee. Luna moved toward the kitchen, but Daniel caught her hand. "Luna, you're in danger." She went very still. "What kind of danger?" "Victoria's brother, Marcus. He knows about us. About last night. He's threatening to hurt you and Miguel if I don't go through with the wedding." Luna's face drained of color. "Miguel? Does my brother have to do with this?" Daniel told her. "Everything. Marcus's threats, the fabricated charges, the implication that worse things could happen." With each word, Luna seemed to shrink into herself. "This is my fault," Daniel said. "I should never have involved you in this. No." "Luna's." The voice was fierce. "Don't you dare take responsibility for their cruelty." She began pacing, her movements sharp with anger. "This is what people like them do. They see something beautiful, something real, and they have to destroy it. Luna, listen to me. You need to leave. Take Miguel and go somewhere Marcus can't." "Find you?" She stopped pacing and stared at him. "Leave, Daniel. This is my life. My home. Miguel's school, his friends, his future. I can't just disappear because some rich boy is having a tantrum. This isn't a tantrum, Marcus. It's dangerous. The Whitmores have connections everywhere. Police, judges, immigration officials. If they want to destroy you, they can." Luna sank onto her couch, her hands shaking. "I worked so hard to build this life. After my divorce, after I lost everything the first time, I swore I would never let anyone have that kind of power over me again." Daniel sat beside her, careful to maintain distance, even though every instinct screamed at him to pull her into his arms. "Tell me about your first marriage." "Richard Ashford. Boston old money like your precious Whitmores. I was 22, stupid, in love with the idea of being rescued." Luna's voice was bitter. He liked having a beautiful wife to show off at parties, the exotic dancer who'd been tamed. But when I tried to keep dancing, to maintain my own identity, he made it clear that wasn't acceptable. "What happened?" "Got pregnant, lost the baby at 5 months. Luna's voice broke. "Richard blamed me, said I'd been too selfish, too focused on my career. The grief nearly killed me, but what destroyed me was realizing he was relieved. A baby would have complicated his image of the perfect society wife." Daniel felt sick. "Luna, I'm so sorry. I left him with nothing. No money, no connections, no career. I came to Seattle with Miguel and started over. It took me 5 years to build something I could be proud of. She looked at Daniel with eyes full of pain. Now you're asking me to give it all up again. The accusation hit like a physical blow. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to protect yourself. You want me to disappear so you can marry Victoria with a clear conscience, knowing I'm safe somewhere far away? Daniel stood abruptly. That's not fair, isn't it? Luna rose to face him. What? What's your plan, Daniel? I run away, you marry Victoria. And we all pretend last night never happened? What about what I want? What about what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Bullshit. Luna stepped closer, her eyes blazing. What you want is the only thing that matters. You're not a victim here, Daniel. You're a grown man who's choosing safety over happiness, choosing other people's expectations over your own soul. The words stung because they were true. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand perfectly. I lived it. But I also learned something you haven't figured out yet. The cage is only as strong as your willingness to stay inside. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Where are you? People are starting to arrive. Luna saw his face change. Go, she said quietly. Go marry your perfect bride and live your perfect life. But don't come here asking me to sacrifice everything so you can feel better about your choices. Luna, please. I'm trying to keep you safe. I don't need you to keep me safe. I need you to be brave. She moved to the door and held it open. If you can't do that, then you're not the man I thought you were. Daniel walked to the door, then stopped. What if I choose you? What if I don't show up today? Then we fight together. But only if you're choosing me, because you can't live without me, not because you feel guilty about hurting me. Daniel looked into her eyes and saw everything he'd been too afraid to hope for. Love without conditions, passion without apology. A life lived fully instead of safely. But he also saw Miguel's scholarship hanging in the balance. Luna's dance studio facing mysterious tax problems. A young woman alone against the full weight of the Whitmore family's power. I have to go. Luna nodded, but didn't say goodbye. She simply closed the door, leaving Daniel standing in the hallway with the sound of his breaking heart echoing off the walls as he walked back to his car. Daniel noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The driver's face was hidden behind sunglasses, but the message was clear. Luna was being watched. Marcus hadn't been bluffing. The trap was closing. And Daniel was running out of time to decide who he was willing to sacrifice to escape it. The wedding guests filled St. Mark's Cathedral like beautiful ghosts, their whispered conversations echoing off Gothic arches. Daniel stood at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, watching Seattle's elite file into mahogany pews. Face was a reminder of the life he was about to lock himself into forever. Victoria appeared at the back of the cathedral, radiant in silk and lace, her father's arms steady beneath her gloved hand. The organ swelled with Pachelbel's canon, and Daniel felt the weight of 200 pairs of eyes upon him. But all he could see was Luna's face as she'd closed her apartment door. The disappointment there had been worse than anger, worse than tears. She had seen through to his cowardice, and the truth had broken something between them that could never be repaired. Dearly beloved, the minister began. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Victoria Elizabeth Whitmore and Daniel James Cross in holy matrimony. The words felt like dirt in Daniel's mouth. He found Victoria's eyes beneath her veil and saw his own trapped reflection staring back. They were both prisoners here, both sacrificing themselves on the altar of other people's expectations. If anyone has reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. The cathedral held its breath. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs as he waited for someone, anyone, to give him an excuse to run. But the silence stretched on, heavy and final. Then the cathedral doors burst open. Miguel Martinez stood in the doorway, 15 years old and blazing with righteous fury. His school uniform was rumpled, his dark hair wild, but his eyes held the same fire Daniel had seen in Luna's face. I object, Miguel called out, his young voice carrying clearly through the shocked silence. A collective gasp rippled through the congregation. Victoria's hand tightened on Daniel's arm. Marcus half rose from his seat in the front pew, his face dark with rage. Young man, the minister stammered, this is highly irregular. If you have legitimate grounds for objection, I do. Miguel walked down the aisle with Luna's graceful confidence. This man is being forced to marry against his will through threats and blackmail. The whispers exploded into full conversation. Daniel felt Victoria's grip on his arm turn painful. Miguel, what are you doing here? Daniel whispered. What my sister was too proud to do, fighting for what's right. Miguel turned to address the congregation. Marcus Whitmore threatened to destroy my family if Daniel Cross didn't go through with this wedding. He threatened to have me expelled from school, to ruin my sister's career, to hurt innocent people to get what he wants. Marcus stood fully now, his face a mask of cold fury. That's a serious accusation, young man. Do you have any proof? Miguel pulled out his phone. Actually, I do. The audio was crystal clear, recorded through Miguel's open window as Marcus made his threats in the alley behind Luna's building. Every word of blackmail, every threat against Luna and Miguel captured in perfect digital clarity. The cathedral erupted. Guests turned to stare at Marcus with shock and disgust. Several people began filming with their phones. Victoria dropped Daniel's. Armin spun to face her brother. Marcus, tell me this isn't true. Marcus's composure finally cracked. Victoria, you don't understand? I was protecting our family. Protecting what we've built? By threatening children? By destroying innocent people? Victoria's voice carried clearly through the cathedral. This is what our family has become. This is what I've become? She turned back to Daniel, and for the first time in years he saw the woman she used to be. The college girl who'd believed in justice and fairness before wealth and social position had hardened her heart. Did you love her? She asked quietly. The dancer? Daniel looked into Victoria's eyes and saw freedom there. Permission to tell the truth at last. Yes. Victoria nodded slowly, then turned to address the congregation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the disruption, but there will be no wedding today. My brother's actions have made it clear that our family has lost its way, and I refuse to build a marriage on threats and coercion. Began pulling off her engagement ring, but Daniel caught her hand. Victoria, wait, your family will cut you off. You'll lose everything. Or maybe I'll finally find out who I really am when I'm not trying to live up to their expectations. She smiled, and for a moment, she looked young again. Besides, I have a trust fund my grandmother left me that Marcus can't touch. It's not much, but it's enough to start over. Victoria pressed the ring into Daniel's palm and leaned close to whisper in his ear. Go to her and Daniel. Thank you for showing me what it looks like to choose love over fear, even if it took you a while to get there. She kissed his cheek gently, then walked down the aisle with her head held high, ignoring her father's shocked protests and Marcus's furious shouts. Daniel looked out at the chaos erupting in the cathedral. Wedding guests were arguing with each other, phones were recording everything, and Marcus was trying desperately to control the narrative. But none of it mattered anymore. Miguel appeared at Daniel's elbow. She's at the dance studio, Luna. She's been there all morning, practicing for the showcase next week. Miguel, why did you do this? You could have just taken the recording to the police. The teenager grinned, looking exactly like his sister when she was planning something dangerous. Because sometimes you have to make a scene to wake people up. Besides, Luna would never forgive me if I let you marry the wrong woman without a fight. Daniel laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. What about school? Your scholarship? Already taken care of? Turns out Marcus wasn't as careful as he thought. I recorded more than just the threats. I got him admitting to bribing school officials and manipulating scholarship committees. The FBI is going to be very interested in those recordings. Daniel stared at the teenager with new respect. You've been busy? Luna taught me to dance, but she also taught me to fight. Sometimes they're the same thing. Daniel pulled off his bow tie and jacket, leaving them on the altar. Come on, let's go get your sister. As they walked out of the cathedral together, Daniel heard Marcus shouting behind them about family loyalty and consequences, but the threats sounded hollow now. The desperate raging of a man whose house of cards was finally collapsing outside. The Seattle rain had stopped and the sun was breaking through the clouds for the first time in days. Daniel looked up at the clear blue sky and realized he was free. Now all he had to do was convince Luna to forgive him for taking so long to find his courage. The Paramount Theater dance studio occupied the basement level of the historic building, its mirrored walls reflecting infinite versions of Luna as she moved across the polished floor. Her body flowed like water given form, each movement a conversation. Between pain and beauty, loss and hope, Daniel stood in the doorway, still wearing his wedding shirt and dress pants, his tie abandoned somewhere between the cathedral and here. Miguel had disappeared after letting them into the building, claiming he needed to check on something upstairs, but really giving them privacy for whatever came next. Luna hadn't noticed him yet. She was lost in her dance, working through a piece that seemed to tell the story of a woman breaking free from invisible chains. Her face was streaked with tears, but her movements were powerful, defiant, alive. The music ended, and Luna collapsed to her knees in the center of the floor, breathing hard. That's when she saw Daniel's reflection in the mirror. "You missed your wedding." Her voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the underlying tremor. "No, I stopped my wedding. There's a difference." Luna rose slowly, her eyes never leaving his reflection. "Miguel told you where I was. He did more than that. He saved us both." Daniel stepped into the studio, his dress shoes silent on the wooden floor. He recorded Marcus making his threats. "The FBI has the evidence now. Marcus can't hurt you or Miguel anymore." Luna turned to face him directly, her dark eyes searching his face. "And Victoria called off the wedding herself. She's free too, in her own way." Daniel took another step closer. "Luna, I'm sorry. Should have been braver sooner. I should have fought for you from the beginning." "Why didn't you?" The question hung between them like a blade. Daniel could have made excuses, could have talked about pressure and expectations and the weight of other people's dreams. Instead, he told her the truth. "'Cause I was terrified. Not of Marcus or his threats, but of you. Of what you made me feel. Of how completely you changed everything I thought I wanted from life." Daniel's voice cracked. "I was afraid that if I reached for you for real happiness, I'd lose it all and end up with nothing, and now I know that nothing is exactly what I had before I met you. A beautiful empty nothing that looked perfect from the outside and felt like dying on the inside." Luna moved closer, her bare feet silent on the floor. "Daniel, what are you asking me? I'm asking you to dance with me." She laughed, surprised. "You don't know how to dance? Then teach me." Luna studied his face for a long moment, then walked to the sound system and selected a song. Soft, haunting music filled the studio, something Spanish that spoke of longing and second chances. "Dancing isn't about the steps," Luna said, moving to stand in front of him. "It's about trust. It's about letting someone else into your space, your rhythm, your heartbeat." She placed one hand on his shoulder, took his hand with the other. "Feel the music. Don't think about what you're supposed to do. Just respond to what I'm doing." They began to move, slowly at first, Daniel stumbling over his own feet and his own uncertainty. But Luna was patient, guiding him with gentle pressure, showing him how to follow her lead, and then how to lead himself. "Better," she murmured, her body warm against his. "Tell me what you're really afraid of." The question caught him off guard, and he almost stopped moving. But Luna's hand on his back kept him going, kept him honest. "I'm afraid that I waited too long. I hurt you too badly by choosing them over you, even for a day. And I'm afraid that I don't know how to be the man you deserve. I've spent so many years being what other people wanted me to be that I'm not sure who I really am underneath it all." Luna spun away from him, then back into his arms, the movement so natural it felt like breathing. "Who do you want to be? Someone who chooses love over fear, someone who fights for what matters instead of accepting what's expected." Daniel pulled her closer, finding his confidence in the circle of her arms. "Someone worthy of dancing with." "You. And what if you're still figuring it out? What if becoming that person takes time? And I guess we'll figure it out together if you'll have me." The music shifted, becoming more intense, more passionate. Luna's movements changed with it, became more challenging, asking more of him. Daniel found himself responding without thinking, his body learning to match hers, to complement her strength with his own. "There's something else," Luna said, her voice breathless from the dance. "Something I need to tell you." Daniel's heart clenched. "What?" Richard, my ex-husband, he's been calling. He heard about what happened at the cathedral, saw the social media posts. He wants to reconcile. Daniel's steps faltered, but Luna kept him moving. What did you tell him? I told him I was in love with someone else. Someone who makes me feel alive instead of beautiful. Someone who sees my strength instead of trying to break it. Luna's eyes locked with his. I told him I was in love with you. The words hit Daniel like lightning. Luna, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I also know that some things don't need time to be true. Some things just are. Daniel stopped, dancing, and cupped her face in his hands. I love you too. I think I loved you from the moment. You sat down at my table in that cafe and called me out for looking like I was attending my own funeral. Luna laughed, tears streaming down her face. You did look like you were dying. I was. I just didn't know it until you showed me what it felt like to be alive. Daniel kissed her then, soft and sure and full of promises they were finally free to make. The kiss tasted like hope and second chances, like the future they would build. Together, one brave choice at a time. When they broke apart, Luna rested her forehead against his. So what happens now? Now we dance. And tomorrow we keep dancing. And the day after that, we figure out what forever looks like when you're not afraid to reach for it. I like the sound of that. Outside the studio windows, Seattle sparkled in the afternoon sunlight. Somewhere across town, Victoria was packing up her old life and preparing to discover who she could become. Marcus was probably meeting with lawyers, trying to contain the damage from Miguel's recordings. The wedding guests were spreading the story of the runaway groom and the brave teenager who exposed a family's corruption. But in the dance studio, there was only music and movement and the promise of a love worth fighting for. Daniel and Luna danced until the sun set over Elliott Bay, learning each other's rhythms, discovering how broken people could create something beautiful and whole when they stopped being afraid of falling. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the wings of the Paramount Theater, adjusting his black suit jacket and trying to calm his racing heart. The familiar scent of stage makeup and rosin filled the air, mixed with the excited chatter of the audience. Settling into their seats, "You're nervous," Luna observed, appearing beside him in a flowing emerald dress that made her skin glow. Her hair was swept up in an elegant twist, secured with the pearl pins he'd given her for her birthday. Terrified, Daniel admitted, "What if they hate it?" "They won't." Luna straightened his tie with practiced hands. "The community center needs this funding, and your design is brilliant. Besides, half the audience is here because they read about the architect who left his society wedding to follow his heart." Daniel grimaced. "I still can't believe Miguel leaked that story to the Times. He's protective of his sister. He likes you now, which is saying something." Luna's smile was warm with affection. "Besides, it worked out. The Whitmore scandal brought you clients who actually care about building something meaningful instead of just showing off their wealth." Through the gap in the curtains, Daniel could see the audience filling the theater. Representatives from the city council, local business owners, community leaders, and scattered throughout the crowd. The faces of the families who would benefit from the new community center he'd designed. "There's Victoria," Luna said, nodding toward the third row. Victoria sat with a man Daniel didn't recognize, her face animated as she spoke to him. She looked different, younger, her severe society haircut replaced by soft waves that framed her face. The diamond jewelry was gone, replaced by simple silver pieces that caught the theater lights. "She looks happy," Daniel said. "She is. The non-profit work suits her. And James seems like a good man." James Chen was a civil rights lawyer Victoria had met while volunteering at a legal aid clinic. Unlike her family's circle, he was more interested in justice than profit, more concerned with doing good than looking good. They'd been dating for 3 months, taking it slow, learning to trust again. "Speaking of looking happy," Luna murmured, "there's Miguel." Daniel's gaze found the teenager in the front row, wearing the new suit they'd bought him for his scholarship interview at the University of Washington. Miguel had grown 2 inches in 6 months and carried himself with new confidence. The recordings that had exposed Marcus having made him something of a local hero among his classmates. 5 minutes to curtain, a stagehand called out. Luna took Daniel's hand, her fingers warm and steady. Ready? With you?
Always.
They walked onto the stage together, Daniel to the podium where he would present his design for the Martinez Community Center. Luna to the piano where she would accompany the youth dance troupe that would perform afterward. The community center had been Luna's idea, born from her work with at-risk teenagers in the neighborhoods where arts programs had been cut from school budgets. Daniel had volunteered to design it pro bono, his first project since leaving his old firm and starting his own practice focused on community development rather than luxury estates. "Good evening," Daniel began, his voice carrying clearly through the theater. "6 months ago, I stood on a different stage in this city, about to make the biggest mistake of my life. I was saved by a teenager with a smartphone and the courage to stand up for what was right. He found Miguel in the audience and nodded. But more than that, I was saved by a community that believed love was worth fighting for, that art was worth preserving, that second chances were worth taking." Daniel clicked to the first slide of his presentation, showing the empty lot where the community center would be built. The Martinez Community Center isn't just a building, it's a promise. A promise that creativity matters, that young people matter, that communities can come together to build something beautiful. The presentation continued with architectural drawings, budget projections, and testimonials from community members. But what moved the audience most was Daniel's passion, his genuine belief in the project and the people it would serve. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Several city council members were wiping their eyes. The business owners were pulling out their checkbooks. Daniel felt the satisfaction of using his talents for something that mattered, something that would outlast any society, wedding, or luxury development. Luna rose from the piano bench and joined him at the podium. "Before our young dancers perform tonight, I want to say something about second chances. A year ago, I thought I was happy. I had my work, my brother, my small but meaningful life. I didn't think I needed anything more." Her eyes found Daniel's. "Then I met a man in a coffee shop who looked like he was attending his own funeral. He was trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt like dying on the inside. Saving him, teaching him to dance, showing him what it meant to choose love over fear saved me too." Luna turned back to the audience. "The Martinez Community Center is being built with donations from people who believe in second chances. People like Victoria Whitmore, who walked away from her family's wealth to find her own path. People like my brother Miguel, who used his voice to expose corruption and protect the people he loves. And people like Daniel Cross, who had the courage to leave everything behind for the chance to build something real." She paused, emotion thick in her voice. "But mostly it's being built by a community that understands that sometimes the most beautiful things come from the most broken places. Sometimes you have to tear down the walls that are keeping you safe to build something that makes you free." The youth dance troupe took the stage then, 15 teenagers from across Seattle, performing pieces they'd choreographed themselves. Each dance told a story of struggle and hope, of young people finding their voices through movement and music. Daniel watched from the wings, his arm around Luna's waist, marveling at how much had changed in 6 months. His old life felt like a dream now, or maybe a nightmare he'd finally woken up from. The Whitmore family had never recovered from the scandal. Marcus was facing federal charges for bribery and corruption. Their father had suffered a mild heart attack from the stress and was considering early retirement. But out of that destruction had come something beautiful. Victoria's work with legal aid was changing lives. Miguel was heading to college on a full scholarship. Luna's dance program was expanding to serve 3 neighborhoods. Daniel was designing buildings that would make communities stronger instead of just making rich people richer. "Penny for your thoughts?" Luna murmured as the final dance ended to rapturous applause. "Thinking about how far we've come. We've got further to go." Luna turned in his arms, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I have something to tell you." Daniel's heart skipped. "Good something or bad something? Good something." Actually. Luna reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "Remember the fellowship I applied for? The one that would let me study traditional Spanish dance in Barcelona for a year?" Daniel's stomach dropped. "Luna, no. Please don't tell me you're leaving. I'm not going anywhere." Luna's smile was radiant. "They offered me the fellowship, but they also offered me something better. They want to partner with the Martinez Community Center. They'll send master teachers here, help us develop an international exchange program, fund scholarships for our students to study abroad. Daniel felt like he could breathe again. So you're staying? I'm staying. We're building something here, Daniel. Something real and lasting and beautiful. I'm not walking away from that. Luna stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I'm not walking away from us. The theater was emptying now, audience members filing out into the Seattle night, many of them stopping to make additional donations or volunteer their time. The evening had been more successful than anyone had dared hope. Miguel appeared backstage, grinning from ear to ear. Did you see Mrs. Patterson? She wrote a check for $50,000, and the mayor wants to talk about making this a model for other neighborhoods. Oh, you did good, kid, Daniel said, ruffling Miguel's hair. Your sister would never have gotten this far without your help. Our sister, Miguel corrected, and Daniel felt something warm settle in his chest. Somewhere along the way, he'd been adopted into the Martinez family. Accepted not because of what he could provide, but because of who he'd chosen to become. Victoria approached them, James at her side, her face glowing with happiness. Daniel, Luna, that was incredible. The design is beautiful, and the presentation was so moving. Thank you for your donation, Luna said, embracing her. It means everything. It's the least I can do. After everything my family put you through, supporting your work feels like the right kind of justice. Victoria turned to Daniel. I'm proud of you. This is who you were always meant to be. Daniel studied his former fiancée, amazed by the transformation in both of them. Are you happy, Victoria? Really happy? She looked at James, who was deep in conversation with Miguel about college application strategies, and her smile was soft and genuine. I'm figuring out what happiness looks like when it's actually mine to choose. It's scarier than I expected, but so much more real. That's all any of us can do, Daniel said. Let's figure it out as we go. As the theater finally emptied, Daniel and Luna found themselves alone on the stage where they'd first met 6 months ago. The ghost light cast long shadows across the empty seats, and the building settled into quiet around them. Dance with me, Luna said, extending her hand. There's no music. There's always music. You just have to listen for it. Daniel took her hand and pulled her into his arms. They moved slowly across the stage, their bodies finding the rhythm they'd discovered in that basement studio, the rhythm of two people who'd learned to trust each other with their deepest truths. I love you, Daniel murmured against her hair. I love the life we're building together. I love you too. And Daniel? I have one more surprise. Daniel pulled back to look at her. I don't think my heart can take another surprise tonight, Luna laughed, reaching into her other pocket. She pulled out a small velvet box, and Daniel's world went still. Luna, what are you doing? Something I should have done months ago. Luna dropped to one knee in the center of the stage, the ghost light casting her in a golden glow. Daniel Cross, you taught me that love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who inspires you to complete yourself. Opened the box to reveal a simple platinum band. You showed me what it means to choose courage over comfort, authenticity over approval, partnership over possession. Will you marry me? Daniel stared down at this incredible woman, this force of nature who had saved his life by refusing to let him settle for less than he deserved. 6 months ago, he'd been standing at an altar about to promise his life to someone else for all the wrong reasons. Now Luna was offering him the chance to make that promise for all the right ones. Yes, he whispered, then louder. Yes, absolutely yes. Luna slipped the ring onto his finger, then rose so he could lift her off her feet and spin her around the stage. They were laughing and crying and kissing all at once. Two people who had found their way to each other through the wreckage of their old lives. When? Daniel asked when they finally stopped spinning. When we're ready, when the community center is built and the programs are running, when Miguel graduates and starts college, when we've had time to be sure this is real and lasting and strong enough to build a future on. It's real, Daniel said, his forehead pressed against hers. It's the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Then we have all the time in the world. They danced until the security guard came to lock. Up the theater, two figures silhouetted against the ghost light, moving to music only they could hear. Outside, Seattle glittered in the darkness. It's full of possibility and promise and second chances for anyone brave enough to reach for them. 6 months later, Daniel and Luna were married in the newly completed Martinez Community Center, surrounded by the community that had made their love possible. Victoria was Luna's maid of honor. Miguel walked Luna down the aisle. The youth dance troupe performed, and everyone danced until dawn. It wasn't a society wedding with crystal chandeliers and $1,000 flowers. It was better. It was real. It was theirs. And as Daniel and Luna swayed together in the center of the dance floor, surrounded by everyone they loved, they knew they had found something worth all the fear, all the uncertainty, all the courage it had taken to get there. They had found forever. Asterisk the Ian Day liked this video if the story touched your heart. Subscribe for more emotional tales, and share with someone who believes in the power of true love. And let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.